What's up YouTube? So us at Karate Culture, we're trying to push this idea that karate, Okinawan karate, is a complete art that works within the clinch. So look at the Ryukyu Islands before Okinawa came to was owned by Japan. They had their own king, they had their own indigenous form of wrestling. It's actually Shima or grappling. And being located in the middle of trade routes from China, Korea, Japan, Southeast Asia, they were able to incorporate all of these styles from who they were training with. So you had Chinese Kung Fu, you had Judo or Jiu-Jitsu back in the day, you had Taekwondo, you had Muay Boran, the father of Muay Thai. You had even Kendo or Kenjutsu from the Satsuma clan. So all those styles were incorporated and added onto their grappling base. And if you think about the Okinawan person, they were a small, maybe shoulder height to me, maybe 5 feet or so. So it would make sense for them to try to close the distance, work on their hard body training, which they did, and also do Hojo Undo stuff, right? So that's developing muscular strength, which looks totally different than what sport karate looks nowadays, right? Those people are taller, more lanky, they're trying to shoot in and out, and they're trying to maintain distance rather than close the distance.
We believe the katas really show is the manipulation of limbs, manipulation of your opponent's body weight and posture, as well as your own around your opponent, and that's what really the true meaning of those katas were for, not necessarily standing at arm or legs length in order to block or receive a punishment. In theory, theoretically, when you look at a lot of these katas, you're starting from a defensive position, right? So if you want to think about using that defensive position to move in versus just to receive a technique, if Michael's coming in with just whatever attack, doesn't really, or if he's even grabbing or whatever, right? My goal is to close that space, right? So once you've gone that far, you've said, okay, we've closed the space now, and now I'm here. So this is the part where your katas start to come alive, right? So the idea is not to just say I'm implementing one kata, it's the katas flow seamlessly from one to another whenever it's necessary, right? So it's whatever is allowed, right, at that point. That's why you learn techniques from here to here. You know, all this kind of stuff is the same thing as me being, you know, here and trying to slip out there doing an arm drag across. It's also the same if I can't do this because he starts to bear down, going up like this, which is the same thing as doing this number, right? So it's all manipulating limbs, the body, yourself around the person.
So once you close the distance, you're already in this clinch range, and you realize, like, crap, the grips have to be strong. Your stances have to be solid, because if he moves you around and you're loose, you're gonna get taken down. That's why those deep stances are found in Okinawan karate, right? These drop stances that you see in traditional martial arts. So things that you see that he throws a punch and I do this from way out here, it makes more sense where I'm in here, I'm creating the same image and he's putting pressure into me, so I gotta create a solid structure, right? Structure so that you can move around, and structures that slip through as well.
Yeah. Even the movements where you start seeing a lot of like pivoting, right? It's not even just front and back and side to side, it's up and down. So even using that same structure, in this instance, like if he's too strong or too heavy for me, I can use my stances to pivot and drive him away, right? And also push myself off, right? I don't have to be standard here. He can push in hard, and I can use this to push myself off.
So then once you have that in mind, you kind of understand that you should have a conceptual approach to learning, because kata then becomes just a series of movements rather than specific techniques. So then our core principles that we always like to tell people is anchor your opponent to your body. That means if he grabs onto me, I'm going to make sure he doesn't let go anymore, so I'm going to anchor him to me, and now he's kind of stuck to my body weight, my center of mass. So then I'm not trying to do this and manipulate him anymore with my arm. I'm just making him tied to me, and I'm going to move around. The second thing is dead weighting. So dead weighting means that instead of, again, using your muscles, you're using your body like a sack of potatoes, pretty much. So this can be from here, as I'm dead weighting with my stances, lowering my center of gravity, and also dead weighting in the sense that I'm letting him carry my weight. So every time we're in that clinch range, I want to use as little energy as possible. Therefore, I'm trying to figure out how I can lean onto him as much as possible. So it kind of goes towards this progression where you're holding on to things using larger muscle groups rather than just trying to hold on to them like this. You're engaging your lats, so you're holding on to them like that.
Another thing to keep in mind is also why posture is really important in that, right? You don't want to necessarily be bent over the whole entire time like as the wrestler would, right? Because it is striking to the arm as well, right? So it's dealing within the clinch, being able to anchor, keep your posture up so that when you can disengage or re-engage your opponent, you can do that by using implemented strikes. Strikes allow you to disengage. So you're here and I'm trying to break down this posture, but I can't. So that's where you can let go, strike, then pull, right? Wherever your strikes are, right? So all these, that's why you learn all those katas no matter what it is that they're doing, because here, doing this number lets you move him around versus just staying in that clinch.
Also, if he's focused on maintaining his balance, he's not going to be focused on attacking or maneuvering. So that means you want to try to occupy his space, right? So imagine we have personal bubbles. And my goal here, after I anchored, after I dead weight, is try to figure out a way to occupy where he's standing instead of having two separate spaces, right? Those are kind of our core fundamental concepts. From there, think of them as umbrella terms, and then there's different branches that come down from them, right? So other concepts to think about is opposite directions. So it's going to be very hard to try to move his arms in the same direction, or if you have a solid structure up, it's going to be hard for me to push against them like that. But if I move them either up and down or forward and back, I'm going to be able to slip past his guard. For example, it's going to be hard for me to do this, but it'll be easier for me to do that. And you see movements like that in kata all the time. Things that push and pull or go up and down, those are moving opposite directions. Even things that are hands and feet, right? So pulling here and kicking here. Some type of throw that you see in kata as well. So once you're in the clinch, you gotta understand how the body moves, how his limbs react. His elbow can't bend this way, but it can bend that way. I turn his thumb facing outward and his chest opens up, that messes up his posture, right? So understanding how to create these manipulations while you're within the clinch, that's probably the next step for you as a student or you as a learner to figure out how to apply your katas.
Katas kind of teach you how to do that, but saying like any one form is specific, is a specific technique, is where I think stuff starts to kind of like, you start to become really limited with what you're doing. And it's like, oh, I can only do this in this instance. And it's like, well, no, like can you only throw a front snap kick to the face? I mean, like throw it to your knee.
Yeah.
Or your shin, or your groin, or your stomach, right? There's something that delegates that. So why limit all of these, the plethora of movements to just one singular application? It makes kind of no sense.